Hello, and welcome to NWEA Map Growth Basics for Teachers, sponsored by the Oklahoma Public School Resource Center. My name is Jean Potter, and I will be your guide for this session. In this module, we've been talking about the NWEA Student Profile Report, and we're going to continue. In our last session, we talked about the overall homepage, and now we're going to be looking specifically at the instructional areas. As we said in the last session, if I look at reading, I will see obviously different instructional areas for this. Let's go back to math. If I look at this, I can see what Dean, student's name is Dean, if I can see what his RIT score was. If you are using map skills, you'll be able to see this part also, as most of our Oklahoma teachers don't have map, but aren't participating in the map skills portion of this. This probably will not be available for you, so we're just going to ignore it. I really like that it shows the relative strengths that Dean has. So in math, he has a relative strength in both operations and algebraic thinking and geometry. But I really need to look more deeply at that, so I'm going to use these two small arrows in the upper corner of the column and use those to expand this page and go more deeply into what we can see about Dean's performance in mathematics in these instructional areas. The page that pulls up looks very similar. The top is the same, but it's expanded out the instructional areas. As you can see, if I'm looking at this, when I have all of the instructional areas, there's a lot of information to deal with. To make this a little simpler and a little more concise, I'm going to choose to look at just one of the instructional areas. In this case, I think I'll choose geometry. So if I click on that, it will pull up just the geometry learning statements. If I want to go back and view all of them, I would click right here. If I want to move to statistics and probability, I would click on one of these and it would bring those up. I also want you to know that if you would like to look at this for another student, but in the same area, you can just click on this arrow, and as you go back and forth, it will remain on this same page as far as the information that you're seeing. So we're looking at geometry. I can show the learning statements and see what Dean is ready to develop. It shows what those skills, what RIT range those skills are in, and some specific learning statements about those. If I prefer to have a little cleaner page and don't want those learning statements, I can hide those for a time and know that we're working specifically on relationships involving lines, angles, and polygons. But if I want to show them again, all I have to do is go back to show. It takes just a second for it to reload. I can also show, I've got them shown by topic here. I can also change to standard if I want to group them by standard. And if you've been listening, you know that this is a demo, so I'm seeing Common Core standards, but I can, as an Oklahoma teacher, if you have an Oklahoma login, you will see our Oklahoma State standards. I'm going to move back to the topic area and look at those. And then if I look up here, I can see the learning statements, not just for the develop, which is what he's ready to learn right now is the default, but if I would like to, I can also expand out so that I can see the skills that he's already mastered that I'm building on, or skills that he will be working on, and I might want to begin to introduce information about. I can narrow it down even further by using the filters. In this case, there's a pull down, and although I realize you can't see the pull down, it says that I have a couple different choices, and it's these same areas right here, but I can choose to highlight just those sub areas. So I'm going to choose congruence. And then if I go over here to this pull down, it will show all of the topics within that. And so I can choose to look at simply trigonometry, because I know I'm going to be wanting to teach trigonometry in the next 6 weeks, and I'm planning ahead. I can show, and then I narrow it down specifically to what Dean will be ready to develop for trigonometry. I can go back if I want and do all again. So a lot of different variations here to narrow our focus or to expand it back out. So I'm back to the way that the page originally loaded. If I'm done with this and I want to go back and talk to Dean about something else, I simply click the X up here in the corner, and that will bring me back to the home page. Our next session is going to be talking about growth goals, so stop back in for the next session, and thank you for joining me.